Let's get into it. Numbers chapter 13. Numbers chapter 13. For those of you that was with us last week, this is uh, carrying on in that same thought pattern, or at least in that same text. But it was impressed upon me to keep going because I saw some things, even though some of us are familiar with this text, some new things that illuminated for me. Numbers 13, Numbers 13, 31 through 33. Numbers 31 through 33. For those that are sitting with me, once you have it, say I have it. You can put I have it in the comments too if you got it. Numbers 13, 31 through 33. Text says, but the men who had gone up with Caleb, the text says him, but the men who had gone up with Caleb were not able to go up. They said, we are not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we. And they gave the children of Israel a bad report. King James Version says an evil report. Holcomb Christian Standard Bible says a negative report. A bad report. The land which they had spied out, saying, the land through which we have gone as spies is a land that devours its inhabitants. Now, why would God send you to a land of milk and honey if the milk and honey was going to devour you? It doesn't even make rational sense. It doesn't even make logical sense, and it certainly doesn't make spiritual sense. But this is what they're thinking. This is their perception. The land devours its inhabitants. And all the people whom we saw, all of them, y'all see this? All the people who we saw in a men of great stature. Y'all see intimidation? There we saw the giants, the descendants of Anak. Will it really matter if you saw giants there? If everybody you saw there had great stature, what's the difference with the giants? But anyway, the descendants of Anak came from the giants. And we were like grasshoppers in our own sight. Wait a minute. We saw the size of the enemy. And then the text says, we were like grasshoppers in our own sight. This isn't what the enemy told us about ourselves. This is how we saw ourselves. We were like grasshoppers in our own sight. What can we do if the government's against us? What can we do if the majority is against us? What can we do? If my family is against me, if my so-called friends are against me, what can we do? And so we were in their sight. Let's get to it. The faculty of faith and the fallacy of fear have a commonality in reception. Listen real close. The report we believe in is the report we'll respond to. The report we believe in is the report we'll respond to, because you got two different groups of people here. You have the minorities, Joshua and Caleb, don't get it twisted. You have the minorities who are saying we can do this thing. And then you have the majority saying we cannot. We can't possibly get through this because we went in and looked at the land, and even though we brought back fruit from the land, somehow we survived 40 days in a foreign land, but the land devours us. Hold on, wait a minute. The land devours the people, the inhabitants thereof. How did you come back? That's just my mind working. Well, here, we barely escaped with our lives and this fruit. That's how they saw it. So they saw things turned against them. They saw that the odds again were stacked against them, and it seemed like they couldn't overcome it. That's what the majority felt like. And so sometimes when we hear from the majority, we start to change our own report. Because if everybody else is thinking like this, then I can't be right. God couldn't have said this is everybody, because check this out. I'm not talking about wicked people or a wicked nation. I know they were acting wickedly, but we're not talking about a wicked nation. We're talking about God's people. So before you get to go pointing fingers at sinners and things of that nature, sinners are going to do what sinners are going to do. But sometimes the people of God, and we are seeing this even in this time right now, where it seems like the people of God are against the people of God. And you have leaders saying, we need to do this. We can go up and we can possess it. But then you have a majority, and that's in the text. That's what I'm talking about. You have a majority saying we can't do this. We shouldn't do this. Let's go back to where we came from. A lot of people right now saying, I can't wait till we get back. I don't want to go back. I'm not interested in going back. Does that make sense? But I want you to be encouraged. The doubter's vote of no confidence cannot overrule the believer's verdict of faith. Somebody says, I have a verdict of faith. Which means before I even go into any kind of trial or situation like that, I already have a verdict of faith. It doesn't matter how they judge me, my verdict is faith. It doesn't matter what the enemy says about me, my verdict is faith. It doesn't matter what the opposition says about me, doesn't matter what the sickness says, doesn't matter what the report from the doctor says, I have a verdict of faith. I've already made up my mind. See, the boys who was in the fiery furnace, they had a verdict of faith. They said, I don't know how God is going to move. That's why I love that story so much. That's why I love that event so much, because they said, I don't know what God is going to do, but I know that I'm going to believe God, because God is able. Somebody say he's able. God is able to deliver us. But even if he doesn't, it still doesn't change what I'm going to do, because I'm going to make sure that I worship God to the end. Now, we know how that story ended. We know, some of us, how this story ends. But we have the divine opportunity of hindsight. That before we make it into a potential tomorrow, that we have an opportunity right now to look at this and say, you know what? I see that the odds may be stacked against me. I see that the opposition is great, and I'm not in denial of the details. Amen, somebody? But I'm also not in doubt about who God is. I'm not in doubt about what God said. If God says that I can have it, somebody say it's mine already. So their vote of no confidence, that's the vote that they gave. They said, we have no confidence. I know that ain't what the text said, but that's what it is. We have no confidence. There's no way that we can go do this. Didn't God say I was going to give you the land? I know you said the land was going to be flowing with milk and honey, and we of our own account said the land was flowing with milk and honey. But somehow, even though we got that report, we still don't believe, because we've seen the opposition. See, when we see things that we're going to receive, we get real excited. But sometimes when we see what it takes to require to receive it, then we get in doubt. Amen? Because there's a requirement. I know you got dreams, but your dreams take requirements. There's some effort involved on our account. Does that make sense? By the way, the declarations are good, right? I declare this, I decree that. Declarations are good, okay. Yet implementation is greater. Somebody say be about it. Don't just talk about it. Don't just talk about it. Be about it. It's just real easy to talk about a thing. It's another thing to follow through. Because follow through is that meantime energy. We have starters energy. We have finishers energy. But that meantime energy, oh, that's a different kind of energy. That's maintenance energy. That's day-to-day cultivation energy. Do you understand what I'm saying? Everybody wants to plant. We love to have a seed in our hand. We want to sow. Oh, but when we don't see that seed breaking ground, sometimes we get to doubting whether God is doing anything, because there's something growing in the darkness. God help me here. And I'm here to tell somebody right now, somebody needs to hear this. There's something growing in your darkness right now. There's something growing in your darkness. You can't see it, but God is moving behind the scenes. Something is growing in the darkness right now. I want somebody to believe that. Perception is highly impressionable. It's highly impressionable. Can I go to the text? The men had gone up with Caleb, said, we are not able to go against these people. I want you to keep that in mind. I want you to keep this exact verbiage in mind. They said, we are not able to go against the people. Y'all heard that? We're going to come back to that. For they are stronger than we. The land which we have gone as spies is a land that devours its inhabitants. And all of the people, whom we saw in it, are men of great stature. Furthermore, there we saw giants, the sons of Anak. The sons of Enoch. Listen at this. Let's go to 1 Samuel 17:33. I want you to see something. 1 Samuel 17:33. Once you have it, say I have it. 1 Samuel 17:33, Saul said to David, you are not able to go against this Philistine. Sound familiar? Yeah. One set of doubt came from individuals. This doubt came from an individual. You see what I'm saying? But it's the same verbiage. It's the same verbiage. You are not able to go against this Philistine. We are not able to go against this people. To fight with Goliath. For you are a youth, and he is a man of war from his youth. Verse 36 of the same chapter of Samuel, David says, your servant has killed both lion and bear. Oh my. But they have killed both lion and bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, seeing he has defied the armies of the living God. How many of you are glad that you serve a living God? When you know that you serve a living God, you begin to speak like you serve a living God. This uncircumcised Philistine has no chance against the armies of the Lord. This uncircumcised enemy, these giants of Enoch, they don't have covenant with God. They don't have a relationship with God. Why am I intimidated by somebody who doesn't have relationship with God? Why am I going to let them move me out of my relationship, out of my stance with God, just because it's more of them than it is of us? Just because their stature looks great. Perhaps their stature is great. Perhaps there is a lot of them. What does that mean? God has, I said it last week and I said it, God has a history. He's got a habit of liking when the odds are against his people. He's like, hold on, wait a minute. Matter of fact, if it's too many of y'all, send all the scared ones away like you did with Gideon, right? Y'all remember that? But the truth of the matter is this. How we see things greatly influences our intellect, our dialect, and our prospect. Can I say it again? How we see things greatly influences our intellect, our dialect, and our prospect. Can I show it to you in the text? Our dialect is our manner of speaking. And this is how they begin to speak. They say, we are not able to go against these people, for they are stronger. You see how it's affecting their dialect? Huh? We see how their perception is affecting their dialect, and then even their intellect, which is the faculty of reasoning, that is being affected also. The land is a land that devours its inhabitants. And I had to go do some study. I was like, well, maybe they were talking figuratively. No, they literally were talking about this land eats its people up. There was some commentary that said perhaps they saw a lot of funerals in the land. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? Perhaps they saw a lot of funerals in the land, and they said the land is eating up these people. All the people we saw were men of great stature. Can I tell you something? Exaggeration is nothing more than an absolute lie. Exaggeration is nothing more than an absolute lie. So people, well, I just exaggerated a little bit. No, you lied. You said the land was eating people. The land wasn't eating no people. You lied. You said everybody there. That would have mean the children would have had to be of great stature too. Everybody that we saw that was, all the men were of great stature. Wasn't no short people. Huh? All the people was of great stature. Exaggerating, lying. And check this out. There are people who are depending on our report. There are people, your children. Oh, I know right now, say, I ain't going to rely on nobody's report. Well, somebody's relying on yours. Your children are relying on your report. See, we get real, deep, we get that imaginary lack syndrome, You get that liquid, I don't know what kind of courage it is. It's a false courage. You get that inflated chest and I don't need nobody to tell me nothing. Meanwhile, you try to tell everybody everything. But there are people who are relying upon your report. Say amen, somebody. Your children are relying upon your report. Your congregation is relying upon, your worship team is relying upon you. Your business partners are relying upon your reports. And if you come back with intimidation and exaggeration, you're shortchanging the whole thing. And there are some people who were not given the task or the responsibility to do the recon. That was your job. Well, go and look for yourself. No, that was your job. God sent you. See, it's easy to blame somebody else for our failed attempts. God didn't send you. God sent them. And sometimes God sent you and he didn't send them. And I know that we're familiar with this. Whose report are you going to believe? I believe the report of the Lord. Yet when the majority starts speaking, you start sliding. Just because most people, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. Because most people say this, we ought to do this. I don't care what most people are saying. I don't care what the so-called experts are saying. What is God saying? Because the expert is a man. But the Almighty is God all by himself. What does the Almighty have to say about the situation? Walking scared. The devil is alive. And a fabricator too. Are you listening? But their intellect, their faculty of reasoning has become faulty. They're exaggerating. And their prospect. And prospect is the extent of one's expectation. We have an expectation, right? We know we have a hopeful future, right? I know the thoughts that I think towards you, the thoughts that are not, that are peace, right? To bring you to a what? An expecting end. Thoughts of peace, not of evil. To bring you to an expected end. That is our prospect. But how we see things will affect our prospect. And this is what the people in the text were saying. We were like grasshoppers in our own sight. Forget what other people, can I take this aside real quick? There are some people who are damaged about what people say about them. There are some people who are damaged about what people said about them. And you're letting what somebody else said about you affect how you operate right now. Oh, God, help me here because I hope I ain't offending nobody, but I got to say what I got. Why do you care what they got to say about you? What did the Lord say? We're so busy looking about what the enemy has to say about us that sometimes we get distracted from what God said. Because haters gonna hate. And everybody ain't got all the haters that they talk about. You're supposed to be friendly, but we do have naysayers and we do have detractors. Say amen, somebody. And sometimes detractors are people that are close to you. You can't do that. You shouldn't be doing that right now. Huh? But we let people that complete strangers will say stuff about us. Well, y'all ain't this. Why am I listening to you? What effect, man, I hope y'all see what I'm getting at. I ain't got time to get all through it, but some of us are too much affected by what the opposition has to say about us. Well, they don't think that we're anything. Why is what they think anything to you? This is about a value system. This whole walk of life is about a value system. What you have value in will determine how you operate. What you have value in will determine how you operate. It will determine what you can and cannot afford. And what we cannot afford is their view and their value of us. Let me tell each and every person listening right now, you are absolutely, positively priceless. We'll say things like, I know my worth, but as soon as somebody discounts your work, you all down in the dumps and talk about, look at how they talk about me. This is what the people of Israel are going through. They're saying, look at what the enemy has said about us. And before they even hear from the enemy, they're looking at themselves as insignificant. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Can I say this? New scenery cannot be fully appreciated without proper imagery. Let me say that one more time real slow. New scenery cannot be fully appreciated without proper imagery. They were in a new place. They had new scenery. They weren't in the place of bondage anymore. So some of us are saying, I just need new imagery. I'm talking about what I'm talking about. I just need new scenery. I ain't knocking it, but I'm saying the new scenery isn't going to do you any good if you don't have proper imagery. Because if you still come back looking at yourself the same way that you did before you left bondage, you're going to be in bondage in a brand new place. And the devil is a liar. I come against every mindset that says I'm going to be in bondage in new scenery. That's why I don't want to come out on the other side of whenever this is, trying to think back how it was then. No, baby doll, I got to come into this time right now saying God is about to do a new thing. Will you not know it? And it starts with me. And it starts with me. New scenery isn't going to help you if you don't have proper imagery. You don't have divine imagery, spiritual imagery, godly imagery. What did God say about you? How do you see yourself in this word? Does the word show you who you really are? Do you make those corrections when you see them? Do you make those corrections when you hear them? Or do we give ourselves excuses because it's too much for us? The problem's too big. The circumstance is too great. The opposition is too large. What are we going to do against this giant who's killing everybody? David says, man, I need one rock. Caleb says, man, I just need some dogs in this fight. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Imagery affects identity. Imagery affects identity. The text says again, we were like grasshoppers in our own sight. In our own sight. And in their sight. Exaggeration feeds denigration. Exaggeration feeds denigration. Because the minute you start blowing up how big they are and how great they are, you start even subconsciously demeaning yourself. I can't possibly ascend to the heights that they got to. I can't possibly be. Why do you want to? No, greater. We are vessels of the greater. Amen. Does anybody receive that? Somebody say, I am a vessel of the greater. I'm a vessel of the greater. So why would I look at myself as smaller, but just because I see something that's physically bigger than me? Again, I'm not telling you to walk in denial. I'm not saying I'm 5'8", 185 pounds soaking wet. I ain't trying to act like I'm 6'8", 290 pounds. No, not in the physical realm. But in the spiritual realm, I'm a giant. Do you understand what I'm telling you? In fact, forget a giant. I'm led of God. I'm led of God. You understand what I'm saying? What's a giant going to do to me? Uncircumcised Philistine. What's a giant going to do to me? Descendants of Enoch. You about to be dead, Enoch. You about to descend a little lower. Do you understand? You about to be 6 feet deep. How about that one? We must understand, we are image bearers of the Most High God. We are image bearers of the Most High God. Genesis 1:26 says this. God said, let us who? The Godhead. But let us make man in our image according to our likeness. Let us make man according to our image and our likeness. So that means that God made me in his image and in his likeness. So what do I care about what some man has to say about me? Why do I say what the opposition, and understand that yes, God made all mankind. Understand that. But not all mankind has a relationship with God. We all are creatures of God. Huh? We are all created by God. Huh? And we're not all children of God. Huh? Huh? Okay, let me back that up. We have received the spirit of adoption whereby we cry, Abba. We are children of the light. Say amen, somebody. We have no part with darkness. Do you dig what I'm saying? But we are image bearers of the Most High God. And he has made us according to his image and his likeness. And the closest contact that we have with that image and his likeness is when we get into relationship with him. And then we begin to see things as he sees things. We begin to, again, adopt and acquiesce to the mind of Christ. The mind of Christ. We begin to see what the text is saying about our situation, which is why we can overcome any obstacle in anything. You dig what I'm saying? False imagery infects. False imagery infects. They saw themselves as insects. They saw themselves as inadequate. This triggers the intimidation factor. So their intimidation was triggered. The bad report, the evil report, the negative report. And I got a real kick out of this, fake news. Fake news. That's what's got the whole world going crazy right now. Fake news. The whole world is intimidated right now by what? Fake news. You ain't even listening for the truth. You tune in and every station, I don't care what acronym is in front of them, CNN, Fox, all of them. Fake news. If you're not talking about what God say that's fake news. That's fake news. What did God say about it? If God didn't say, that's fake news. I hear you yapping. I hear you exaggerating. There's all kind of reports. We know people that work at hospitals like some of these numbers ain't legit. Huh? I'm not saying it's not real. I'm not saying that it's not a real thing that's going on right now. But I'm saying some of this stuff is exaggerated, which means what? It's an absolute lie. And what happens is fear is a form of control. Do you understand? Fear is a form of control. Fear is a false shepherd. Because it will lead you. It will lead you into captivity. It will lead you and it will herd you into a place where you can't move around. Because fear induces paralysis. Fear will cause you not to move. Anybody ever been so scared you felt like you couldn't move before? I can't move right now. And that's what this fear is doing to our nation. This is what this fear is doing to people across the world. All because they're too tuned in to fake news. Now I know you might be proper with your educated self. Somebody say, I ain't trying to hear fake news. Ain't nobody got time for that. What am I here? Well then, what am I listening for? Right? We know the text says faith cometh by hearing. But we also know that what? Fallacy does too. What was heard in the garden determined how they perceived the fruit. When they heard from God, God said, what? On the day that you partake, that you touch that fruit, you will surely die. That's what they heard, right? And that was the perception that they held for a while until the enemy crept in. The enemy slithered up next to the woman. And I'm not blaming her. It's Adam's problem. Oh, I'll tell you why in a minute. I ain't mean to get sidetracked, but I got to back that up. So the enemy slithers in. And he starts talking to Eve. And Eve at least tries to defend herself a little bit. You know what God said. But then after he finished speaking to her for a while, how she saw it changed. It became good to her. It became attractive to her. Do you understand? And the problem wasn't with the attraction. The problem was when she had to put her hands on it. You see it, and then you got to put your hands on it. And then when you put your hands on it, now it's got to become something that we consume. And she partook of it, but God says nothing until the man partakes. He said, because you sin in the world. Man, you know why? Because you hold the seed. Do you understand what I'm saying? But the point of that was this, is that because of what was heard, perception was changed. So I want to take that and say, what you're hearing, I needed to change your perception about the situation. But you get to decide. Because this works, somebody say either way. Whose report will you believe? I need you to know what happened to those 10 that gave the false report. They were struck down with plague. That's the Bible. You ain't got it. You ain't got to like it. And the 2 that had the faithful report had to stick it out. We'll go into that another week. But they had to stick it out. They had to wait for a whole generation. I'm not trying to go through all that. I don't want to go through all that. And we don't have to go through all that. If we'll just have the people who were supposed to be doing the recon come back with the report of the Lord and not the report of fear, not the report of doubt, not the report of intimidation, not the report of exaggeration, but the report of truth. Truth that if God be for us, who can be against us? Faith imagery invigorates. Overcomers. That's what Joshua says in verse 30. He says we are well able to overcome it. So faith imagery invigorates. Overcomers. And it talks about, and it also gives us a sense of ownership. Why do I say ownership? He says we're going to go up and possess this. So it gives us overcomers and ownership. It triggers indomitability. In other words, I know I can't be defeated because God is on my side. So I stand with Caleb. Somebody hashtag that. I stand with Caleb. I stand with Caleb. We are well able to overcome this. I stand with Caleb. I'm on the Lord's side. I'm on Moses' side. I'm on Joshua's side. I stand with Caleb. I stand with the underdogs. I stand with those who have a dog in the fight. I stand with the minority who says, you know what? I don't care what the majority says. It only matters what the master says. If the master says stand still, then I shall stay still. But if the master says move in the midst of a storm, then I'm moving. Just like that. Imagery matters. Somebody say imagery matters. Imagery matters because it provides something to look at. When we're looking for guidance, it doesn't matter whether it's your GPS on your phone. It doesn't matter whether it's an old school atlas. It doesn't matter whether there's signs right in front of you telling you right or left or forward. Imagery provides something to look at. And so we look at this word, hear me closely, we look at this word to guide us away from error. Because the narrative of this story is telling us what happens when we don't hear from God. When we don't listen to good leadership. When we allow intimidation to override our faith. But we've got to change the narrative of doubt. We've got to change the narrative of being discouraged and start encouraging each other in the things of God. Imagery matters because it provides something to look like. What are we supposed to look like? We're not supposed to look like insects. We shouldn't see ourselves as insects. I don't care what Mr. Miyagi said about the grasshopper. I'm not trying to, you understand what I'm telling you? Doesn't matter. How do we see us? Do we see ourselves as God sees us? You know that imagery becomes problematic because we need something to look at. And because we need something to look like, this is where idols come from. Somebody say imagery matters. It really does. Because when we see stuff, we could put hope into things that we built. I hope that you heard what I just said. We can put hope into things that we built. There's some people that have faith in this country. This country was built by man. I'm not coming against the country. Do not misunderstand what I just said. But this country was built by man. Huh? And if we don't give it over to God, then it'll fail just like anything else that man does. It'll fail horribly. Facts. So if we don't put faith, I don't have faith in America. Not one iota. Oh Lord, I'm finna get in church. I'm finna get in trouble with the church. I don't have faith in Jerusalem neither. Do you understand what I'm telling you? My faith is in God. My faith is certainly not in fake news. What did God say? I done offended some folks. Lord have mercy. All I'm saying is this, that we ought to be taught to become dependent upon God. Amen. And so I'm saying we can't let these narratives drive us to the left or to the right. We got to go forward in God. So I stand with Caleb. One more thing. Imagery matters because it gives us something to look to. What are we to look to? Look unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. He started it and he's going to finish it. Do you understand what I'm telling you? It doesn't matter again, the opposition that you see. Oppositions are only obstacles meant to be overcome. They're meant to be overcome. I want to encourage somebody today to understand that imagery matters. What imagery are you paying attention to? Remember, this is about a value system. What imagery are you paying attention to? What report are you receiving? Don't get up and talk about somebody received the report of the Lord, but you glued to your television, shaking in your boots because of what they raising up, what they gonna do, what they may do, what they may not do. Are we supposed to by God? It's amazing to me. Some of these same folks that told something they hear from God are now paralyzed in fear. But I thought that you heard from God. When everything was hunky-dory, so to speak, when everything was on the up and up, so to speak, oh, I hear from God. I got a great move from God. We was talking a whole lot of noise before this crisis hit. It was a lot of powerful people before this crisis hit. I'm not telling you to be unwise. I'm doing this from my house. I'm not telling you to be unwise. What I'm telling you is this. Don't you be shaken. Look, stop being shook by what the enemy has to say. Stop being shook by what the naysayers have to say. Stop being shook by fake news. I don't know why I can't get that out of my system. It's coming from the government. It's coming from the industries and this, that, and the third. Again, I'm not telling anyone to be unwise. I'm saying, what should we look to? What are you saying? I'm saying that imagery matters. I'm saying that what God has to say about the situation, that's all that matters. And even when God tells you to do something and don't nobody else know, it doesn't seem like anybody else, we always know there's a remnant that can hear. But it doesn't seem like anybody else is hearing from God, you just continue to do what God told you to do. Because if God said it, He's going to finance it. He's going to fund it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we won't end up broken if we let God fund it. Does that make sense to anybody? I hope that you heard the word today. I hope you heard something that blessed you, because this thing, imagery, matters. What are you seeing? What does the text tell us? The text tells us in verse 30, we are well able to overcome it. Don't listen to these false narratives and these people who saying that things can't get better. I'm not talking about things that are going to get back. I don't care about that. I really don't. It doesn't matter to me. But I serve the greater, and greater is He that lives in me than he that lives in this world. God has not forsaken us, and He never will. Understand, it matters, ladies and gentlemen. What are you looking at? Because sometimes what you look at will change how you listen. Sometimes what you look at will change how you listen. So look into this word. Listen to what it's saying. And if you're on the right road, keep going. But if you find yourself wayward, even if you find yourself on the sidelines, get off the sidelines. Get off the sidelines. Get back in this race. If you find yourself sidetracked, come back to this way. Come back to this path. The word is telling us we are well able to overcome. What do I see? I see victory. What do I see in you? I see victors. I see the victorious. But my imagery of you doesn't matter if it has no value to you. So more than my view of you, the Lord sees us as victorious. Somebody say, I am victorious. I am an overcomer. I am more than a conqueror. Let us go up at once and take possession, for we are well able to overcome it. Don't worry about the opposition. Don't worry about adversities or the adversary. What God has for us is for us. And He's going to do it in a dynamic way. Do you believe God? Give Him a praise right where you are.